Most people have never questioned the structure underneath their financial life. They earn, they spend, they save what remains, and the system feels stable right up until the moment it isn't. There is a quiet financial experiment you can run right now in your head. If your income stopped tomorrow, not slowed, not reduced, but stopped entirely, how many weeks before the pressure becomes real? For most households, the honest answer lands somewhere between 2 weeks and 3 months. That window is not a personal failure. It is the logical consequence of a particular architecture. An architecture built entirely around one mechanism: time exchanged for money, on a schedule someone else controls. Now consider a different architecture, one not built around earning but around owning, where income arrives not because someone showed up, but because something they built is still running. This video is about that architecture, what it is, how it actually works, and how it gets built. Most people think of a salary as something they have, a reliable number, a financial foundation. But a salary is not a possession. It is a conditional agreement with a termination clause built in. The terms are simple: perform to standard, remain employed, and payment continues on schedule. The moment either party withdraws from that agreement, the income stops completely and permanently. No future claim exists. No residual payment follows. The years invested generate nothing forward. This is categorically different from how an owned asset behaves when it generates income. An asset does not require your presence. It does not require your performance. It does not require ongoing negotiation. A rental property collects rent in months when the owner is traveling, ill, or simply uninterested in working. A stock portfolio pays dividends in quarters when the shareholder has done nothing except continue to hold. A business with systems in place generates distributions whether or not the original founder is involved that week. The salary and the asset both produce income, but only one of them continues when you stop. That distinction, invisible to most people, is the entire foundation of how the genuinely wealthy sustain their lifestyle. Asset-based income does not come from a single source. It comes from a layered structure of distinct engines. The first engine is equity. A diversified stock portfolio generates two simultaneous returns: capital growth as the underlying companies increase in value over time, and dividends paid regularly from company profits. Dividends behave most like a salary. They arrive on schedule, in predictable amounts, requiring nothing except continued ownership. A portfolio yielding 3.5% to 4% annually on $2 million produces roughly $70,000 to $80,000 per year. That income does not reduce the portfolio. The source remains intact while the output flows. This is the core mathematical logic of the whole system. The second engine is real estate. A rental property generating net positive income after all costs produces monthly cash flow with two structural advantages. Rents tend to rise with inflation over time, while a fixed mortgage payment stays constant, gradually widening the income margin. A single property netting $2,000 monthly generates $24,000 annually. A portfolio of 3 or 4 such properties begins to rival a professional salary. The third engine is systematized business ownership. Not a business that requires the owner's daily labor, but one with management and processes that generate profit independent of any individual's presence. The line between a high-paying job and a true business asset is precisely this: does income continue when the owner stops showing up? The fourth engine covers fixed income and alternatives. Bonds, private lending instruments, and treasury structures generate defined interest on a known schedule. Royalties from intellectual property, licensed content, or creative works produce income that can outlast the activity that originally created them. The architecture of sustained wealth is rarely built on one of these engines alone. It is built on several, each drawing from different variables and different market conditions. Beyond dividends and rent, there is a layer of financial strategy that explains a pattern most people find confusing. Many of the wealthiest households in the country report surprisingly modest taxable income while living extremely well. That gap is not accidental. The mechanism is a three-part structure: acquire assets, borrow against them, pass them forward. When cash is needed, assets are not sold. Selling creates a taxable event and permanently removes a compounding asset from the portfolio. Instead, appreciated assets are used as collateral to secure a loan. The borrowed amount is not taxable income, it is debt. The portfolio continues growing. The loan proceeds fund the lifestyle. The underlying asset remains intact and continues compounding. If the portfolio earns 7 to 10% annually and the loan costs 4 to 5%, the math runs in the borrower's favor while the tax bill remains deferred. The inheritance step completes the structure. When assets transfer to an heir, their cost basis resets to current market value at the time of transfer. The accumulated appreciation that was never taxed during the original owner's lifetime is effectively removed from the tax calculation entirely. The estate repays the outstanding loans, and the heirs receive a portfolio with no embedded capital gains liability from the prior generation. This strategy is not exclusive to billionaires. Asset-backed lending facilities are available at many institutions for clients with portfolios above $100,000 to $250,000. It carries real risk. A sharp portfolio decline can trigger a forced repayment. It requires careful calibration, but it explains a structural tax efficiency most people have never been shown. When people imagine living without a salary, they tend to picture either dramatic luxury or precarious uncertainty. The actual daily experience of a well-constructed asset income tends to look neither dramatic nor precarious. Income arrives on schedule. A dividend deposit clears mid-month. Rent transfers automatically on the 1st. A business distribution arrives quarterly. No commute produced those deposits. No performance review determined their size. No manager's decision altered their schedule. What changes is not the texture of any individual day. What changes is the absence of a particular kind of vulnerability. The vulnerability of knowing that one decision made in a conference room you were not invited to could end your income entirely. Consider a household that spent 20 years consistently investing a fixed portion of each paycheck into index funds and 2 rental properties. They built a small consulting structure they eventually stepped back from, but retained an ownership stake in, reinvesting every distribution for over a decade. By their early 50s, the monthly income from those 3 sources matched their salary. The salary did not become unnecessary through some sudden event. It became optional, gradually, quietly. 1 reinvested dividend and 1 additional rent payment at a time. When a corporate reorganization offered a severance package, they accepted without fear. The income infrastructure was already there. The package was simply a bonus. The income this household lived on was ordinary by professional standards. What was not ordinary was the consistent refusal to let all of it disappear into consumption. Building asset-based income does not require a windfall. It requires a sequence, applied with consistency over time. The first step is setting a specific target, not a vague goal of financial freedom, but a precise number. If annual living expenses are $80,000, that is the income the asset base must generate. At a 4% yield, the required asset base is approximately $2 million. At 3%, more conservative, the target rises to roughly $2.7 million. At 5%, more growth-oriented, it falls to around $1.6 million. A specific target turns every investment decision into a measurable contribution toward a defined endpoint. The second step is building each income stream sequentially rather than trying to build everything simultaneously. The most accessible starting point for most people is the equity portfolio. Retirement accounts first, then a taxable brokerage account, low-cost index funds with dividends automatically reinvested. This requires no specialized knowledge and no large initial capital. It requires only a consistent contribution and the patience to leave the account alone. The third step is real estate, typically approached through a first rental property that generates positive net cash flow after all expenses. More management is required than an index fund, but the income is highly predictable, and the inflation hedge built into rising rents provides a structural advantage over time. Business income, whether through a side structure, a partnership stake, or the gradual systematization of existing expertise, becomes the third stream when the foundation of the first two is established. The fourth step is aggressive reinvestment in the early stages. Every distribution, dividend, and rent check that arrives before the income is needed for living expenses goes directly back into the asset base. A dividend portfolio that reinvests its output doubles its income generation approximately every 7 to 10 years without any additional contribution. The fifth step is managing the transition deliberately when asset income begins approaching salary income. That moment is not the signal to quit immediately. It is the signal to begin reducing dependence on any single employer, negotiating terms from a position of decreasing need. The transition from salary-dependent to asset-funded rarely happens in a single dramatic moment. It happens through the gradual erosion of necessity, year by year. Every tool described in this video is technically accessible to anyone willing to build toward it. The portfolios, the properties, the business structures, the borrowing strategies. None of them require a family inheritance to begin. But something separates the people who build asset income from the people who understand the concept but never apply it. It is not intelligence. It is not discipline in the abstract. It is a specific relationship with incoming money. There are two fundamentally different ways to experience a deposit clearing in your account. The first is to experience it as something to be consumed. Money arrived, therefore money can be spent. The second is to experience it as raw material. Money arrived, and a portion of it will be converted into something that generates more. The difference in outcome over 20 years between these two relationships with income is not a matter of degree. It is a completely different financial life. The salary-based framework is not a trap that people are locked into from birth. It is the default option in a system that does not explain the alternative. Most people were never shown that the paycheck is also a construction material. That each one, handled deliberately, can contribute to something that outlasts the job that generated it. The genuinely wealthy do not live without a salary because they found a shortcut or inherited the right circumstances. They live without a salary because they spent years converting income into assets, and those assets eventually generated enough output to make the salary unnecessary. The process is not fast. It is not particularly exciting on a month-to-month basis. Most of it looks like choosing not to spend money that could be invested instead. But the architecture it builds is one of the most durable financial structures a household can construct. An income that does not depend on any single employer's continued satisfaction. That does not stop during a recession, a reorganization, or a personal health crisis. That does not require a commute to generate and does not have a performance review standing between it and its next payment. The assets that produce that kind of income are built through ordinary paychecks, directed with unusual consistency over an unusually long time. The starting point is not a large sum. The starting point is the decision to treat a portion of every deposit not as something to be spent, but as something to be put to work. Every paycheck that has ever arrived in your account was also an opportunity to build something that would outlast it. The question is not whether that was possible. The question is what the next one becomes.